The intro you just saw, the beginning was to a movie called Geostorm, a movie debuted in 2017. Didn't make that too much of a buzz in the movie theater world. I barely heard about it. Looking for a topic of explanation on YouTube. That video came out, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. The box office is just trying to sell movie tickets, trying to get people in the movie theaters. They've made so many movie remakes throughout the years, it's ridiculous. Usually the original one's the best one anyways. But coming back to global warming and how it relates to political science, in the 2020 election, they're already, besides all the other topics, in regards to criminal justice, social justice, foreign policy, healthcare, economic reform, and foreign policy. Global warming is a rising topic on the agenda for many of the 2020 political candidates. One of the particular candidates is using his ideal and ideas on political theory. He's using his platform all around global warming, and he's dedicated most of his social media posts in his running for the 2020 election, climate change being one of the main topics for his getting elected. Sounds kind of weird, but a lot of other candidates, I'm not going to name any of them or a lot of them, but a lot of them are using a lot of stuff right now in the media, like I said, on gun control, stuff like that. They're using that as their main topics. This particular candidate is using climate change, like I said. He put this in the Washington Post, put this in his campaign drive. Governor Jay Inslee called climate change the greatest threat to our existence. Quote, since his announcement on March 1st, he dedicated all of his social media posts to climate change and has called for the issue to be at the top of his list on the national agenda. No other candidate in the analysis was focused on a single issue like he was. Now going back to that movie, that movie clip that I showed you, the intro to that movie Geostorm. Some parts are kind of far out there, kind of, not too much of a thing. Like I said, it drives people to the movie theaters to sell tickets. But I think it's fascinating to how they use little things like the missile crisis and North Korea missile talk, stuff like that, that they're bringing it out. Like, how can they use that in the movie? A lot of those ideas that they use in the movie clip are kind of interesting. Like, instead of us talking to North Korea and China and trying to get our nuclear deals restructured and reformed, it's interesting how it took some kind of act of God to get us to open our attention and look at the broader scope of the spectrum of, like, oh, we're fighting about missile deals. What about when an asteroid's headed towards us? Or, for instance, in the movie scene, we can use our missiles in a way to influence the weather, like I said in the movie clip. The IPCC, in 2013, they had put out that it is extremely likely that human influence has been the dominant cause in the obsessed warming since the mid-20th century. Have you noticed the weather patterns, the snow we've been getting down here the last few years, or actually the last year? It's getting colder. The weather's getting hotter. You can look all around the world. We have droughts in countries that don't have that much. They usually have rain and it's getting more drastically throughout the world. Hurricanes are getting more destructive. Floods are getting more higher. The crisis in Houston with a hurricane where it just stayed there spinning, for a few days was kind of like it's never been seen before. Scientists, weather people that predict the patterns and flight paths of hurricanes usually have it going inward, coming out. We never seen anything like this, so it's not to be ignored. To say that the climate change is something that's just like the current president, kind of like a hoax, it's not, and we can't ignore it. Um, the political history on my topic, I think it's interesting to note that um, it's not to be taken lightly. The political parties do have a good theory on global warming. It's something not to be ignored. Um, I chose it because it's important to me because for future generations, my kids, my families, they're gonna continue on after I'm gone. Need to set the bar and continue to focus on the climate, going green. This goes from automobiles. This goes to keeping the economy green, recycling, all that. When I was in school, we talked about recycling. We recycled ourselves. Um, it's an important issue to discuss, and we can't ignore it. Um, my own analysis on the issue and why is it's happening and the effects of, like I said, the global warming isn't a hoax. It's real, and if you ignore it, I mean, you got to look around and look at the other stuff that are coming out of that comes out of global warming, the climate change. And like I said, it's getting hotter. Uh, Rain is happening in places where it particularly shouldn't. Um, I want to focus back onto how it's related to the course. Um, Climate change has been in the media, or it's been getting a little scrutiny. Donald Trump, for instance, I mentioned earlier, he likes to call it, a hoax. He doesn't think it's real, but you can't ignore the fact that, um, all the research that's done over the years, emissions since the 50s with automobiles, and uh, checking like the data with pollution and factories, the offshore oil drilling that we do, natural disasters from oil spills, contaminants, um, the ice caps melting, stuff like that we've been hearing throughout the years. We can't ignore it. Um, my own solution to the issue and what can be done to address the problem. We need to focus on it more. We need to get more involved as a society. Do your part. Um, I pay a majority of the bills here at the house, so I know how important it is to turn the lights off when you're not using them. Uh, to just use a little bit of water when my daughters are brushing their teeth, not to leave the water running. We do our little part to keep our side. If everybody does their part, recycling, um, to going green with cars. They're coming out with electric cars instead of filling up every day on gas. Getting rides with some people. I had a bike, recently just to get around town around here in Harlingen, my community where I live. So if you do a little part, if everyone does their part, they can surely benefit the community, the society as a whole, and keep the economy green. Thank you so much.